What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is, well, it depends on when you're watching, but it could be Monday, September 20th, or Tuesday, September 21st, if you're watching or listening. And this episode of the Pick Six Podcast is brought to you by, oh yeah, that's right, Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Share a limited edition Bud Light team can with us as you listen along. Go to budlight.com/delivery now to order. I've got my Panthers aluminum bottle right here. Hashtag for the fans. Hashtag 2 states, 1 team. Oh, Breech has got a Bengals one. That's right. We actually, Wilson wearing a Bud Bowl shirt. You love to see it. Breech is wearing a Budweiser or Bud Light sweatshirt. I love the Bud Bowl back in
And you know what? My sweatshirt is actually Detroit Lions colors. They went almost all white with a little bit of blue sprinkled in. So, maybe the Lions should wear a hoodie.
That is a pretty uncommon color combination. Blue
wear
and
the
white.
Bud Light hoodie in the next game, Detroit. Maybe
More
you win.
importantly, what place are the Bengals in? What place are the Bengals in?
First.
What place are the Steelers in?
First and last.
What place are the Panthers in?
They're first.
Oh, my. That's right. The 2-0 Carolina Panthers. First place sweep here for our teams on our Bud Light bottles. You want your
good
first
luck.
place?
What fortuitous timing for us to have these cans and all be in first place.
Those are bottles, but yes.
I mean, they're bottle cans.
If you want to get your first place, I guess you get a last place bottle too. If you want to get your first place bottle, go to budlight.com/delivery to get yours. This is the Monday Night Football recap show. The Packers took care of business against the aforementioned Detroit Lions, 35-17. Do we feel like Aaron Rodgers' breach is comfortably took care of business and we don't have to worry about this at all?
This was literally like Aaron Rodgers going out there and just surgically taking apart the Lions so that no one would say a single word about the Packers or him or anything else involving Green Bay or Lambeau Field or anything Wisconsin related after this game. It was just like, you know what? I'm just going to complete almost every pass I throw. I'm going to shut up the critics, and then we're going to blow this game out and go to Detroit. Hopefully our defense gets things figured out, which it seemed they do in the second half. But yeah, I thought Aaron Rodgers looked phenomenal. I mean, there were a couple of plays.
I mean, they were losing at halftime.
Yeah,
they were losing at halftime, but that wasn't.
I mean, the Lions played really well for 30 minutes. Aaron Rodgers should have had an interception in the first half that was dropped, and that offense sputtered. So maybe you just watched the final 30 minutes because it took you that long to get that switch.
I watched Aaron Rodgers go 8 of 10 for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half. What are you talking about sputtering? They punted once.
You're like Brett Favre.
The defense struggled. The Packers' defense struggled in the first half.
He threw an interception that was dropped.
He threw 2 touchdown passes. He went 8 of 10. What do you want, Wilson? You want 100% of his passes completed? Are you insane? Yes. 80% is not good enough for you?
Well, just if you're comparing, first of all, 8 of 10 for 75 yards is good. I mean, 75 yards isn't setting the world on fire.
Forget that part.
That's probably above average.
And number 2, Jared Goff started 8 for 8. I don't hear you talking about how good Jared Goff was in the first.
He didn't ask about Jared.
What a big jam! Wallace took it in his hands and said, "Up and away, Dipsy-doo, Dunkaroo."
We've got to take that thing away from Brinson for a week. He asked about Aaron Rodgers, didn't ask about Jared Goff.
I think Breech was.
I was asking about the Packers as a whole.
Brinson was making a face as you were talking about Aaron Rodgers, and I agree. The second half,
I mean, the way you were describing it, I was like, well, yeah, they definitely won easily, but they were losing.
They were losing, right?
But that was a defensive problem. That wasn't Aaron Rodgers' problem.
Okay, that's a Packers problem.
You asked about Aaron Rodgers specifically to start the conversation. I answered Aaron Rodgers.
You're acting like my wife, and you're dealing in some.
No, you didn't say, "Am I worried about the Packers' defense?" Because then I would have said yes.
Okay.
Dunk button. Yes. Okay, thank you.
He's just gonna get
Dixie-doo, Dunkaroo.
There it is. The homemade 1987 dunk button.
Okay, let me rephrase
my own dunk button.
Are you worried? Do you feel like the Packers did enough tonight to make us say, okay, we're not that worried anymore?
No, see, that's a different question. Okay. I think that Aaron Rodgers played well enough that I think they're going to be good again, and you shouldn't worry about him because that was something people were talking about after he played like trash last week. But as a team, I am still worried about their defense. They have to play the 49ers next week. If they can't stop the run, Granted, the 49ers don't have any running backs right now, but how are they going to do it? There's a lot of offenses. They play Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are going to put up 60 points the way the Packers play defense tonight. So yes, I'm worried about the Packers as a whole. I am not worried about Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, all three of us picked the Packers to cover the 10.5 points, which they did. Even though halftime they were losing by 3 points, and I thought this was going to be one of those games where people overreacted. We talked about this last week and even yesterday on the podcast. People overreacted in the first half, the week one, in terms of how the teams played well or poorly, and then we would see the Packers we've seen for pretty much Aaron Rodgers' tenure. I'm not worried about them because they play in a terrible division. Like the Vikings are 0-2, the Lions are 0-2, and that's not unexpected. And the Bears are 1-1, and there's not too much you can read into that. They have issues at quarterback, whether it's Andy Dalton or Justin Fields, and I think that the Packers will be fine offensively. And it may be a situation, and we've said this a lot over the last 8 days, where you have to rely on your franchise quarterback to overcome a defense that either you thought was good and wasn't, or defense that we thought wasn't good and remains not good. And that feels like the Packers defense right now. Maybe they get better, but I don't think that's going to magically happen. And I think it's all about Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams and whoever else they're going to have to trot out there to get that offense going.
Yeah, the offense is fine when it plays the Lions.
I think last week we talked about this. Aaron Rodgers gave up after 2 quarters of football. And I think that's something you can count on with Aaron Rodgers, just like you can count on him being vindictive.
We've seen the Packers do that every year.
He mentally checks out. If they fall down by 3 touchdowns, he's done.
Yeah. He starts chucking it deep.
Yeah.
I mean, he had some throws. Here's why I wouldn't be worried about the Packers in the larger sense of they're going to win a bunch of games. They're going to win that division. Rodgers is going to put up huge numbers. Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams are going to put big numbers. The 2 throws, the one deep boundary throw
on third down,
on 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 14 to Devontae Adams, and then the subsequent touchdown pass to Robert Tonyan, which Peyton Manning described as the ball caught him. Those throws are vintage, peak, prime, MVP Aaron Rodgers throws. And if he's still got that in the bag, he's going to be fine. The Packers are going to be fine.
He was off on a couple throws, but it's fine. I mean,
also the rain. I mean, the rain messed up that game. That game goes way over the total if it doesn't start pouring down rain.
Jared Goff doesn't like water. We found his kryptonite.
He is a gremlin. Gremlins don't like water.
Well played.
I mean, Rodgers had some tough throws in the water too, man.
But here's the thing. I actually feel bad for Dan Campbell. Like he feels like someone who obviously takes this very seriously, but he wants to turn this program around. You didn't really get that sense with Matt Patricia. You just felt like Matt Patricia was riding Bill Belichick's coattails, fair or not, and it just didn't work out. Where Dan Campbell, he just grits his teeth and stares at the wall for 4 hours every day from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. before he gets going, and then chugs the coffee. And I think the penalties were driving him crazy. The Lions had a bunch of penalties that they had 9 for 78 yards by the time it was over, but they one drive early in the first half, they just kept going backwards because they couldn't quit making penalties. They had delayed game penalties that were untimely in terms of them trying to get back in the game. And you saw them just being like, okay, what are we doing? But I feel like more so than, I say it every time, Urban Meyer, I feel like Dan Campbell, I don't know if he has a plan, but I feel like the guys buy into what he's selling. I don't know how good the coaching staff is around him in terms of getting the best out of these players. But I think they've outplayed at least my expectations in the first 2 weeks.
All right, here, I got an ice cold take presented by Bud Light.
Ooh.
This Lions team, this is super cold, I guess. This Lions team is going to be a thorn in team's side for the entire year, strictly because of Dan Campbell. I mean, they might not be good. They're definitely not great. Well, I mean, they were great last week because they covered, but they might not be good. They might not win a ton of games. Who knows if they'll even get to 5 wins this season? I think they will, primarily though, because primarily they are going to hustle and try hard and care and give it full effort for 60 minutes, probably up until like week 14. Maybe week 12, but they're trying hard. They're going out there and they're giving it all. I mean, that's a tough spot. Monday Night Football, home opener in Lambeau against a division rival with a ticked off Rodgers coming off an embarrassing loss. You knew you were going to get their maximum effort. They were leading at halftime. I mean, this, they were getting blasted by the 49ers through 3 quarters last week and still managed to care and to try and to go out there and hustle. And so I don't know that Dan Campbell's a great coach, but I think he's a good coach for what the Lions need. Sort of same with David Culley. Like,
Yeah.
you want somebody out there who is motivating your guys and giving it his all, so they give it their all as well.
And David Culley, we talked about him yesterday in that crazy fourth down call where he punted. He actually apologized on Monday and explained why he did it.
I screwed it up.
And that's great. I think our buddy Steph Stradley, who's a huge Texans fan, so we've known him forever, said that's all you want. You just want that. You can move on. People aren't clinging on to it. So basically your description, your ice cold take is that the Lions are the homecoming team that no one wants to play.
Sort of, yeah. I just think I think they could play spoiler for. I don't know if the Bears or the Vikings. We'll see if they're going to get in the mix for the playoffs. But I think you see the Lions beat the Bears or Vikings this year at least once.
Yeah, I don't think that would be surprising at all. And I don't think it's that crazy you saying that they're going to play hard every week until, they're mathematically eliminated. And that might not happen anytime soon because, as Wilson mentioned, this division is so watered down and so bad. I mean, the Lions could lose this week and still only be one game out of first place because the 2 1-1 teams, the Packers play the 49ers, the Bears play the Browns. And so you're still thinking, Dan Campbell's still saying, guys, we're one game out of first place. We're going to fight kneecaps off until we're out of this race. And so it's not that crazy. And you look at the start of the second half in this game was really where it still felt like the Lions could win, even though, the Packers did their best to deflate. You guys were talking about how frustrated Dan Campbell was getting. I have to think he was getting incredibly frustrated with the third down conversions for the Packers. Their opening possession of the first half, that's where they had 3rd and 12, 50-yard bomb to Devontae Adams. If you stop that, the Packers are punting on their opening possession. You're good. You're going to get good field position, and maybe you just get a field goal, but then you're up 20-14. That kind of changes the complexion of the game. And then on that same drive, the touchdown pass came on 3rd and 6 from the 22-yard line, 22-yard touchdown pass. If you stop them there, they're kicking a field goal, so a lot of things changed. And then all of a sudden you're down 21-17. And then the Lions' next possessions where they went for it on 4th and 1 and didn't get it. So it was like that just flipped the momentum of the game and the line. And then
should they have kicked there?
If you're playing that well, I would give him serious consideration taking the points. A 21-17 game field goal cuts it to 21-20.
Right. And then even if the Packers score there, it's still just because once the Packers scored, after they didn't get it, the Packers score again, and it's 28-4 or 28-17.
Right.
And then the Lions fumble.
And on that drive on the 28 drive that put them up 28-17, that was the 3rd and 14 you were talking about, where they threw a 14-yard pass, I think, to Randall Cobb. And then later in the drive, they converted a 3rd and 7. So that is 4 3rd and 7s or longer they converted on the first 2 possessions. Where you're Dan Campbell, you're biting your own kneecaps off. You're so frustrated.
That's right. But yes, that's the ice cold take presented by Bud Light, that the Lions will hustle from here on out. And I think that they will mess into a couple. Yeah, I agree with Justin here. They will stumble their way into 5 wins by hustling hard.
And that will be good enough to finish in 2nd place.
That might be.
Oh, good.
There's a bold.
That's a nuclear hot take.
And by the way, they did it with a lot of injuries as well. I know a lot of teams have injuries this time of year, whatever. I mean, the Lions were already up against it because we didn't think they were going to be a good football team. Okuda's lost for the season.
Terrell Williams out.
Melanfanu had to play.
Quintez Cephas' first touchdown.
Yeah. Did he do that?
Oh, yeah. First touchdown, Quintez Cephas, 30-1.
You had that?
Yeah.
Man, that's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Put $30 on it.
Wow.
There we go. Yeah.
Thanks, huh?
Might have to order some Bud Light. BudLight.com/delivery. The other thing too, like the third quarter featured only 4 total drives. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did the first quarter only feature 2 drives?
Yeah, they ran the ball. Both teams ran the ball 1,000 times.
Yeah, that is great.
That first quarter took about 17 minutes. It was glorious.
But I mean, that third quarter, you see the Lions, the turnover on downs, and then the fumble snap. I think it had started raining on the fumble snap.
Yeah,
and that's where the storm came in. And once they were down 28, and Rodgers, it was tough for them to score the touchdown to go up 28-17. In fact, it was a bad throw by Rodgers and a bailout pass interference call by the referees, where Mason Crosby would have had like a dicey kick. Once it got to that point with a double-digit lead, that game was essentially over because the weather was too rough for Jared Goff to do it. Like, you knew he wasn't going to mount a comeback in that weather.
But I mean, is it fair to say in that little part of the game, it felt like the Lions imploded with a dumb call on 4th and 1.
Yep.
And then that fumble that, the Packers didn't force that fumble. Jared Goff just dropped the snap.
You mean the 4th and 1 they didn't convert?
The 4th and 1, they went spread.
It was a pretty hard throw.
Yeah, that wasn't that was a dumb throw. It wasn't a
It
dumb
wasn't a dumb
decision.
call.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
even
thought-
Peyton, like, I mean, I assume you guys watched the Manning broadcast and
No, I watched the primary one because I can't pay attention to like the names and stuff when they're talking to special guests.
I
So
agree.
I watched a few minutes of it, and then I have to listen so I can see who's doing what.
yeah, it's hard to yeah, with the guest on, it's hard to do it. But
I mean, if I didn't have a job, I would watch that, but I got to know what's going on. So
It's hard to focus on the game.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
but Peyton was like, man, I would run here. He's like, oh, why did you throw outside to the boundary? That was
Yeah, if you looked at the top, they had 3 wide receivers to the right side, I believe, and there were a couple guys open. Whatever, it's a bad throw, but I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm fine with Dan Campbell going for that.
No, I going for it's fine.
Yeah, it was the play call. We said the play call was bad, and then the fumble, and that. So I'm saying the Lions shot themselves in the foot there on both those possessions more than the Packers doing anything, and that's kind of what turned the flow of the game because the Packers scored a touchdown after both, after the lost fumble and after the turnover on downs, and then the blowout was on.
It flipped on them. The NFL season is here. To celebrate, Bud Light just unveiled their limited edition team cans designed for the fans. There's a custom design for each fan base. We have ours pretty much every game night. There's nothing better than enjoying a nice ice cold Bud Light while watching some football. I actually had a little Blitzburg. No, I mean, these are NFL cans, but I will say I was enjoying an ice cold Bud Light at the NC State game a couple weeks ago, and it feels pretty incredible to be in like an actual stadium, holding an ice cold Bud Light, sipping it. It's so good. Watch your team win. I didn't go to the Mississippi State game, but that's okay.
Yeah, that was a bloodbath, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty ugly. But maybe I'll enjoy an ice cold Bud Light when we play Clemson on Saturday. They are hitting these cans though. Are hitting store these bottles, these cans, clap your hands, are hitting stores now. And they're the only beer you're going to want to have in your fridge this season. Head over to budlight.com/delivery now to find out how to get yours delivered. Again, that's budlight.com/delivery. Go get your custom fan cans and enjoy one with us while we do this podcast.
I have a question.
Yes.
How do we feel about Jared Goff? Because I think Jared Goff is actually better. I've been crushing that guy all summer, and I feel bad about it. And we talked about it over the summer where
Finally got rid of Sean McVay.
Early on in his career, that's the problem. Early on in his career, he had some success after post Jeff Fisher, and then he sort of, flatlined. I think he might be okay. Like, I think in the right system, which brings us back to Los Angeles, he can be above average. He's above replacement level in my mind.
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
Well, I was really down on him. I figured if it doesn't work for Matthew Stafford, it's not going to work for anyone. But I feel like, we just heard one of the commenters mentioning they could stumble their way to 5 wins. I think Jared Goff's going to have something to do with that. I thought he played well last week. I thought he played well in the first half. But again, as Breech noted, you just got to keep him away from water. So every game has to be indoors, and you got to make sure the sprinkler system turned off.
Well, I think
they play at Ford Field.
Yeah. I think my takeaway from the Goff thing would be that the trade they made with the Rams was a smart one, even if the Rams are good, because they got those picks and they still got a quarterback that makes them not. Goff raises the floor for the Lions substantially versus if they just traded Matthew Stafford for picks and had nothing.
He's not Blake Bortles.
Wow.
Like Blake Bortles was the 3rd overall pick in 2014, and he was overdrafted. And no disrespect to Blake Bortles, that's just the reality of it. I feel like Jared Goff can actually give you more, and he could probably start, I don't know, for 5 or 6 or 7 teams right now. Hell, I might even want him starting for the Steelers. I'm not even joking.
I think the assumption, though, was that the only reason Goff was good at all in LA was because of Sean McVay, and it kind of took all the credit away. Looking on it, we probably gave McVay too much credit. It's not to say McVay doesn't have a great offense there, but, obviously watching Jared Goff now, he deserved a little bit of credit, even though he just keeps having his moments where these small little meltdown moments, whether it was that fumble against the Packers where the ball's in your hands. That's completely, you cannot, like a peewee football player doesn't fumble that snap. And then, he had a couple bad moments against the 49ers. So he's got to get those out of his system. But yeah, I think I agree with Wilson. I think he could start for 4 or 5 teams right now.
All right, well, let's listen to let's find some teams that we would take Goff over.
I just said the Steelers. Like, I'm not even joking. I think I would.
Now, do you think Goff would be better than Big Ben this season?
If Jared Goff was in Pittsburgh in March, I would be fine with starting him. He's better than Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Yeah. Now, look, Breech noted there are going to be some bumps in the road, but You ask me, I'm telling you, I think they're
All right,
evenly matched.
so they had Brett Favre on during the Manning broadcast, and it was a little choppy. There was some delay on it, but there was some interesting conversation about moving to a new team and how you have to learn this new language and everything's different. And Favre was saying that when he went to New York, the way that the play calls came in, it was like Texas 47 red 92 or whatever. And then when he got to New York, it was flipped. He's like, I've been doing that for 16 years. Like, I don't know what the hell was going on. So they gave him like a new. They basically were like, here's the play call, and they were like, but here's how it would sound to you. So he knew like what kind of concept it would be. And Manning pointed out with Goff, which says a lot about Favre. Manning pointed out with Goff that he's probably hoping that his first read is open so he can just deliver it and not have to worry about running through these progressions. Here's a good one. Justin in YouTube comments points out, as a Bears fan, would you take Goff over anything you'd had in the last 6 years? Hell yes. Would you take Goff over Fields and Dalton?
Over Andrew Gregory Dalton?
Well, yes, obviously over Dalton. I'm just thinking about Fields too.
No, I think you still draft Fields. But I mean, obviously the Titans make a ton of sense. What about the Colts?
No, I don't
the Titans over Ryan Tannehill?
No, sorry. I was reading the wrong. The Texans. I said,
yeah.
Right.
No, I was going down the list. But I do mean the Colts.
Obviously, the Buccaneers, he'd be an upgrade.
Right.
I think he'd be interested, like with Tua down in Miami. I think that could be
let's
place for him.
Let's run through this. So I think we can take the NFC West off the table. Cardinals, Rams, 49ers, Seahawks. Fair?
Yeah.
Ooh, would Kyle Shanahan rather have Jared Goff or Jimmy?
Stop it.
No, not Lance, Garoppolo.
I hear you. No, Garoppolo's 2-0, and he's played pretty well.
Okay. I think you might rather have Goff.
But
I think it's close.
That would be hilarious. Like Sean McVay trades him to San Francisco, and the two smartest young coaches in the league have the same quarterback.
Would the Panthers rather have Darnold or Goff?
That's a half a dozen to one. Like that's literally a toss up.
I think Goff is. Darnold's been good the first 2 weeks, but I think Goff has a much better history.
Yeah.
I don't think if you're talking about like this week, they called up and offered a trade. Rule's going to be like, we're 2-0. Darnold's look pretty good.
No, I mean,
no, you get him in the summertime. You
get to. Yeah, you never traded for Darnold. There doesn't have to be all that drama. You just
okay. Yeah.
You get him in March or whatever.
What about the Saints?
Yeah, no, I think that. Sean Payton says we don't throw interceptions with our quarterback, so there you go.
Goff would be good.
Victor, we're on the same page, man. We're on the same page.
Goff would be good in New Orleans. With that offensive line, Kamara.
Well, we said that about Jameis.
What do you mean, like that's
but we knew Jameis had the history of like throwing interceptions, and there's always that chance he's going to have a meltdown game.
I'll tell you
Goff
this.
has moments. Jameis has games.
I would love to see Jameis Winston in Detroit. He would have 50 touchdowns and 85 interceptions. That would be amazing. But Breech, you mentioned the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins.
Goff is an upgrade to Atlanta, right? For the long haul.
I guess
26.
No, I know he's young, but he's not better than Matt Ryan now. And I mean, you're rolling the dice in these first round quarterbacks. Maybe they don't end up being as good as Goff anyway. So I suppose, but I trade a second round pick for him if I'm Atlanta. I wouldn't trade more than that. I'm
just thinking if you go back to March and somebody said, hey, look, you give us Matt Ryan in Detroit, we'll give you Jared Goff. I think the Falcons would do that.
I don't know. Breach.
Okay.
What about the Broncos?
Hold on. We're moving through the.
We already know we were going all the way through.
Yeah, Brinson's leading the charge.
Packers, obviously not. Bears, if you go back to March, I think it's a slam dunk.
Yeah, I mean, they gave
$1 million.
They gave Gregory Dalton $10 million. Yeah, exactly.
The Vikings, Cousins, or Goff?
Well, Cousins is playing out of his mind, and I feel like I don't know. Mike Zimmer loves him. It's hard to tell.
Mike Zimmer hates Kirk Cousins. There's hard to tell. He absolutely loathes the man.
He hated him before the vaccine.
I was going to say,
go back and watch all those press conferences from the vaccine stuff in August, and it was like him letting his anger out over the past 2 years.
He's like, all right, well, I spent all my defensive money on a quarterback.
And to add to that, I think I shared that tweet with you guys today. So Zimmer, after the game on Sunday, said, this is close enough for a kicker, and they need to be able to make it from 37 yards. And then Kirk Cousins got interviewed today, and he's like, you got to get closer. I don't know why we weren't trying to get closer. Like, I don't know how you come out and publicly so maybe Goff needs to be there just to get Cousins out of harm's way, because Zimmer does not like.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, Victor Garcia hit the like button. Y'all hit the like button if you're in the chat. If you're chatting, hit the like button. Good Lord. Come on.
He likes
Um,
only Breech though.
Washington football team.
No, I think Taylor Heineke is.
Oh, I don't think so.
The fans love him. I think the locals love him. Jared
No,
Goff
but
is
you're going
better.
back to March. You're going back to March.
Yeah, I know.
So instead of Fitzpatrick never happens.
Well, yeah, then 100% you do it.
Yeah, so you just get Goff. You don't use Heineke's your backup.
Yeah, that's right.
Dallas Cowboys obviously no. Ooh, Debo. Ooh.
Well, they traded for Mustache. Mustache obviously isn't as good as Gardner Minshew. Obviously isn't as good as Jared Goff, but
I mean, would you rather have Jalen Hurts or Jared Goff?
No, that's a no from me, dog. That's a,
All right, you can mute yourself again. Well, I think it's a yes. I'm feeling.
I don't know. I think it was Debo.
It's close. It's close.
I think the other team in this division, that's a question though.
The Giants. You're taking Goff over Daniel Jones.
Of course, Daniel Jones.
Although behind that offensive line, Goff would be real trouble.
Daniel Jones played the best game of his life last week, so that sort of
And they
muddies
lost.
things. But over the summer, you're like, yeah,
Right. Houston Texans, obviously an upgrade. Tennessee Titans, no. If you went back in March, would the Colts take Carson Wentz or Jared Goff? I think Jared Goff with that offensive line would be good.
well, we thought that about Carson Wentz hasn't been bad. He's just so injury prone. Like, how do you hurt both?
Just give me Jared Goff.
Yeah, I think that.
Jaguars, you're not taking Goff over Trevor Lawrence, obviously.
Yeah, trade the first overall pick to the Rams. Why not? Rams don't like draft picks anyway. They might give it back to you.
Bills, no. Dolphins, you mentioned Breech.
I think probably.
Yeah, I do too.
I think so too.
Especially I don't know how the Dolphins felt over the early spring, but he had a bad season last season because of the hip and everything else. But again, the injuries are a concern for Tua, who bruised his hips. The tests are negative, so we'll see if he plays this week.
I mean, Goff's still only 26 years old.
Yeah.
Well, and that was the thing with Tua was that there was all this, obviously, the injury risk when you drafted him, and you're thinking, as long as he doesn't become injury prone, we're fine. But you don't know if he's going to become injury prone. A hip injury is a serious thing. And all of a sudden, it is sitting here with, if you're Brian Flores, not just the injury thing, but whatever scout guys you listen to, and whoever told you to put Tua over Justin Herbert, you're probably not happy with them either. And so Dolphins are a little messed up right now if Tua doesn't end up panning out. And it's not he's only 2 years in, but it's not looking ideal.
Would the Patriots go back in time and sign Jared Goff in March, not knowing they're going to get Mac Jones?
No, because I think they would have done it.
They would have signed Jared Goff.
Yeah, I think they wanted him. They would have found a way to get him. So I think they were.
No, they wouldn't give up picks for Jared Goff.
How much? I don't even know what the math was after the Matthew Stafford thing factored into it.
So if the Rams would have cut Goff after trading for,
well, if the Rams had given the Patriots Goff and 2 first-round picks, then they were trying to dump Goff, but they wanted somebody back in return.
Right. Trade Cam Newton, I guess, for Jared Goff.
I think they would have preferred Jared Goff to Cam Newton.
Yeah, clearly they cut Cam Newton a couple weeks ago.
Just saying. The Jets.
Yeah, the poor Jets.
No, you're still drafting a quarterback. They were number 2, and
the Jets. They want anyone who won't throw 4 interceptions.
In March, the Jets were always drafting a quarterback at number 2 overall.
That's right.
And then the Ravens, no. Obviously, Steelers. Wilson says yes. Browns, no. I think I'd rather have Baker.
No, absolutely Baker.
Bengals.
100%. You're trading Joe Burrow. You're converting Joe Burrow to tight end, and then you're
all right. So it's Joe Burrow plus Jamar Chase for Jared Goff. Who says no?
No one. No, I'm saying with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I am too. Now this is interesting. In March, would you have taken Jared Goff over Derek Carr?
I would have thought about it, but I was still on the Marcus Mariota bandwagon. But Derek Carr has proven us all wrong.
I think right now you would not do it.
No, 100% no.
Right, but in March you would have at least considered it.
Yeah. I'm not
Teddy Bridgewater or Jared Goff.
Breach mentioned that earlier. That's a good one because Drew Lock, he struggled. That's the truth. He hasn't played as well as he probably wanted to play. Teddy Bridgewater's been playing pretty well.
He hasn't played this year.
Leading up to this year as to why.
And he lost the competition.
Yeah. So I would consider Jared Goff there. And I think, I think he's probably better than Teddy Bridgewater. Just when you look at you compare
Teddy's
them on
played well
paper.
the first 2 weeks, but yes.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Chiefs in charge.
That feels like a coin toss, the Broncos situation.
Yeah.
The Broncos, we might take Goff over Bridgewater? I don't think the Broncos would.
They didn't.
What do they know?
Well, they
They've been in the playoffs since 2015.
Well, but the GM there helped draft Jared Goff and.
What about this guy talking about the Broncos haven't been to the playoffs since 2015? Mr. Playoffs over here.
Ha ha! That's the last time the Bengals went to the playoffs too.
When was the last time the Bengals won a playoff game?
Ooh.
That's not the conversation, Brinson.
The Chargers obviously no. So, do we come up with
They had a handful of teams?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I mean, that's just.
And there were a couple maybes though. There are a couple maybes.
No, I did the quick math. I think there's probably like 7 teams or so at least.
5 to 8 that could potentially be suitors for.
Yeah, Brinson
loves
loves March. It's
That
Brinson with an I. First of all, thank you, Tom. I do love March.
Brinson's
March
reading
Madness.
Yeah, March.
Brinson's
This is
reading
gonna have some
comments,
March Madness podcast.
I'm not reading the comments. Steve was posting them.
But just for people who are listening, going, why is he talking about the month of March?
Oh,
I thought it was obvious.
I forgot for all the audio people. Audio only. We're reading YouTube comments live.
So, where do we go for here for the Packers?
I mean, they're going to first place in the division in a couple of weeks, and that'll be that.
What's next? At the 49ers, Steelers at home, at Bengals, at Bears. What is the Packers record heading to when they welcome Washington on October 24th?
Give me 40 at 49ers. What'd you say? Steelers?
Steelers at home, at Bengals, at Bears.
They should win 3 games.
I feel like 3-1, 4-0 at best, 2-2 at worst.
Yeah,
So I'm thinking 4-2, worst case scenario.
totally.
Yeah.
I think I'm biased with the 49ers. That's Sunday night against I think San Francisco beats them. I think they beat Pittsburgh at home. I think they beat Cincy and Chicago on the road.
Well, San Francisco, they did travel. This will be their first home game. To their credit, they won 2
Kyle
games in a row.
Shanahan owns Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers again.
But
Sometimes
the Packers beat them last year 37 to like 14 or something.
Oh, there you go.
I mean,
They
you
had
can say all the
three.
injuries the 49ers had, but
That's a very quiet Breech dunk.
they still destroyed them.
That's a Breech layup with slaps.
Oh, he missed. He missed. Oh, and he may have pulled a hamstring.
That was like
I know.
mid-season. Everyone was hurt for San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't
That's
count.
all you heard about.
Yeah, I don't count that.
Yeah, that was 34-17. That was the final score.
Although I am dumping on the Vikings. The Vikings could very easily be 2-0.
How can you go to Lambeau Field for $99 to see Washington on October 24th?
That seems like a good deal.
Or you
I
could
mean, all those games are tough. It's not like the Steelers. If TJ Watt's back, they have a good enough defense. Rodgers always had trouble with the Bengals. He's 1-2 all time, and his only win, win was he was like a 12-point favorite, and he won in overtime. And then the Bears is
notoriously always had trouble with the Bengals in his career.
No, I'm going down to Chicago next, and the Bears are a divisional game. I'm saying that these aren't like all layup games. There's certainly you could argue that any one of them
So they'll be, I would guess, slight dogs at San Francisco.
I think they're 3 or 4 point underdogs.
Yeah, they'll be 3-point dogs at San Francisco, 3-point favorites at Pittsburgh, maybe 5-point favorites. They'll be 3-point favorites at least at Cincinnati, and 3-point favorites at Chicago.
Yeah,
It'll be 5.5 in Cincinnati.
I mean, it would be 11.5-point favorites against the Bengals at home. That's a lot.
Cincinnati's going to win. I mean, Cincinnati's going to win. Cincinnati's going to lose by 50 points to the Steelers. That's going to.
But then they're going to beat Jacksonville by 50 the next week. So we're going to be back where we started.
I'm just saying, it's like when you make somebody I mean, the Panthers are 7.5-point favorites on the road on Thursday, which is insane.
Who they play in Houston? It must be Houston.
Yeah, I mean, that means they would be 13.5-point favorites at home.
Yeah.
You just add 6 points if it's away versus home for home field advantage.
I only had 3.
But you take away 3 from one team and then add 3 to the next team.
I don't do that way though. When's ever Wilson? Learn it.
Learn it.
And usually I would say the Packers got dealt a rough hand because they just played a Monday night game. They have to travel halfway across the country for a Sunday game. But man, the Raiders and the Ravens proved that usually teams struggle in that situation, but the Raiders and Ravens both pulled off some wildly impressive victories dealing with that same situation last week.
Yep.
True. Speaking of the Ravens, that's what's up next for the Lions. The Ravens are at the Lions, the Lions at Bears, Lions at Vikings, Bengals at Lions. How many of those do they win? How many of those do they cover? I guess might be a better answer.
I mean, they could win the Bears game.
We said 4-0 is best case for the Packers and 2-2 is worst case. I feel like 2-2 is the best case for the Lions.
I agree with that. I believe
Absolute best case.
they could win 3 of those games.
Well, 2 of them are on the road at Chicago, at Minnesota.
They're probably. I mean, yeah, they're probably not winning this game. I think they could beat Chicago and Minnesota and Cincinnati.
They could.
They
But-
probably won't.
It'll be tough sledding, and they have the
Their
injuries to
defense is
do it.
terrible,
Right.
and their offense is not ideal.
Also correct.
They're not very good, but they try.
Other than that, they're fine.
Anything else to cover here? Oh, I would point this out about this game actually before we go. I love the AJ Dillon overs in this game. He had a false start from the running back position, which is not usual.
You don't see that every day.
You don't see it every day. And he had a bad pass pro situation where Rodgers got sacked, and he didn't see very many snaps after that. Aaron Jones, of course, had a monster game, including 3 receiving touchdowns. Devontae Adams, huge game. TJ Hawkinson looks like he's going to be a fantasy number 1.
He was so
Tight
good.
end.
So
Yeah.
good.
He had that awesome touchdown catch. Gronk was on the Manning broadcast when he caught that too, which you thought would be better, but Gronk was terrible.
He was.
Yeah, he was just kind of broing out. And Packers defense is definitely a problem right now. Those are my takeaways. Anything else?
And somehow Jared Goff was the Lions' leading rusher. I thought that was the weird stat of the night.
That's not great. Not great. By the way, AJ Dillon is the running back they took in the second round when they refused to draft any wide receivers, which probably just made Aaron Rodgers even angrier last year during the 2020 draft.
True. Good point.
So he's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder against the 49ers, who didn't draft him in 2005. Full circle, entire career right now.
Do you know who the offensive coordinator was of that 49ers team?
Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy.
He even suggested draft Alex Smith, not Aaron Rodgers. Then took the job with coaching Aaron Rodgers.
And 17 years later, Aaron Rodgers got his revenge.
Got the last laugh.
All right, that'll do it for the show. We'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday, with a Brady Quinn football show. For Breech and Wilson, I'm Brinson. See you guys later.